Jeff, you're going to show us how to attempt to draw some of the characters, yeah?
Great, let me go over to the...
You head over to the visualizer.
Yes.
Guys, get your pens and papers out. You've all got one underneath your chair. If you're at home, if you're in the classroom, now is the time to grab your pens and paper. Jeff.
Okay. So what I usually do when I'm starting to draw Greg is I start with the eyes, because the eyes tell me how big the character is going to be. Now, if I set them too far apart, oftentimes he'll end up too big. So I start with the eyes, and next is the nose, which is kind of like a C in a way, right? And then the hardest part for me is drawing his head, because it has to be an almost perfect circle. Let's see how close I come this time. I usually have to do this again and again. And in fact, I almost never draw with pen and ink. I almost always use a computer, so this is really different for me. And Greg has 3 sprigs of hair. For some reason, there's a long history of cartoon characters who are boys who are nearly bald. And of course, the most famous cartoon character of all is Charlie Brown. And he just has like a squiggle of hair on his forehead. Now, I drew Greg with a smile on his face, which is pretty rare, because Greg is almost always frowning. Most of the time, Greg is doing something that's getting him into trouble or making him unhappy, and it's usually his fault. And you can see I curved Greg a little bit. You know, I wanted to make sure you knew that he's a wimpy kid, and he doesn't stand perfectly upright. And I think that my Brazilian publisher really picked up on that, and that's why they called it Diário de banana. He's sort of shaped like a banana, right? And you can see here most cartoon characters have 4 fingers. If you think of the Smurfs or the Simpsons or Mickey Mouse, they have 4 fingers because it's sort of enough in cartooning. It's enough to get the point across. That's what I really like about cartooning, is that it's the art of simplification. You're trying to make a big splash with not that many lines. In fact, I sort of challenge myself to use as few lines as possible to tell a story. So cartooning is really the art of simplification. It's a little bit different than illustration. So I'm going to barely fit Greg here. Let's see. There are his feet. Every so often I have to tell a story about Greg having shoelaces, and I'm like, uh-oh, I don't draw shoelaces. So there's some grass, and then I'm going to fill him in here. So, you know, I don't use color a lot. I think black and white is sort of enough to get the point across in cartooning, so that's why I don't often use color. So that is a finished Greg.